Hey guys, Present Me here. I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. This footage was filmed back in December of 2020. A bit has changed. I'm gonna look a little different than I did in the last video that I uploaded. In the background it's gonna be different. But anyway, enjoy the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we have a really exciting video, I hope. I have 4 layers of a 6-inch cake. And each one is about 2 inches tall. And then I have 2 layers, and these are 2 inches as well, of a 4-inch. For the ball, I got this styrofoam ball from Michael's. You can make the ball out of cake, but this cake is going to be driven, it's going to be moved, it's going to be transported. So I didn't want to deal with all that instability. Yeah, I guess we can just get started, guys. I have a 7.5-inch board. This is what I'm going to carve it on and build the cake on once we're ready. So we're starting with the 4-inch. But my main focus is just getting it curved in first. So we're going to work on that. I'm going to cut this down to 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark it real quick. So now we have this, and now we're just going to keep doing the same thing till we get to the top. So I'm using my cake leveler to cut the very top at a bit of an angle. You can't really tell because it was such a small angle that I did. That piece that I cut off, I flipped it over and then it made that slant even more prominent. The trophy isn't perfectly round all the way around. It has 2 sides that curve in. I made this quick template to show you kind of what I'm talking about. And I'm going in with a round cookie cutter and I'm just going to create that indent on all of the layers of cake. Now for the base of the trophy, I'm making this completely out of cake boards. So I have 3 cake boards that I'm stacking together. The base is a 7.5-inch square. And now what you see me doing right here is adding a center dowel because this cake is really tall, so it's gonna need the support. I didn't go too into depth in this tutorial on how I did the center dowel, but I'll link my Yoda tutorial so you guys can get a more in-depth tutorial on how I did this. Once your board is good to go, we're going to just start stacking up this cake. You are going to need support somewhere in the center of this cake, and I chose to do it after the 2nd layer of cake. So for this, I just used some paper straws for my dowels, and then I cut down a small 4-inch cake board to the shape of the cake. You're just going to keep stacking up all of these layers of cake until you get to the very top. Now for the very top, I added on a very thin layer of cake. It was that super thin layer that we cut off earlier. Now I'm going in and covering this entire cake with ganache. You can use buttercream, but I chose ganache because ganache goes on a lot smoother because of how thin ganache can get. For me, the buttercream would have just been too thick and this cake is too crumbly, so it probably wouldn't have kept its shape too well. Now to smooth my ganache, I'm going in with an acetate sheet. This is just a thin piece of plastic that I cut off from a strawberry box. I'm going to build up on the areas where it kind of dents in a little or where it's not protruding as much as I want it to. That's the great thing about ganache, you can really build up ganache. So we're at the point where we're ready to add on our fondant. To smooth out these curves, since you can't go in with your regular fondant smoother, I just balled up a piece of fondant and I'm using that as my smoother. I do have excess on the sides and on the top, but I'm going to put this into the fridge, let the fondant firm up for maybe like 5 minutes, and then I'll cut it off because that'll give me a cleaner cut. Okay, it's been a few minutes. The fondant is pretty firm. Now to cover the other side of this trophy, I'm rolling my fondant to about a 10 by 14 inch piece. And I'm rolling it out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. You can obviously roll it to your desired thickness, but this is just what works for me. And again, I'm popping this into the fridge before I cut off all the excess because when the fondant is firm, that'll give me a cleaner cut. Now we're going to work on the netting design that's engraved onto the side of the trophy. So what I did was I designed this netting pattern on my iPad and then I cut it out with my Cricut. If you don't have all of that, you can just find a netting pattern online, print that out, cut it out with scissors, and then just trace it onto the cake. For the parts on this netting design that were round, I went in with the piping tip just so I made sure to get a perfect circle. So I outlined it once and then I wasn't real happy with it. The outline wasn't deep enough for me, so then I went back in with my dressing tool and I just went over all of those lines a second time. So now to cut out the top part, I just made a quick template. I stuck the printer paper through the dowel and then just kind of traced it. But I'm making sure to make this a tiny bit bigger than the actual size of the cake. So now we're gonna work on the basketball. I'm gonna cover this in Crisco and then that's what's gonna adhere the fondant to the ball. I pushed it down through the bottom of the basketball because for one, we were gonna need a hole in there and it was also easier to work with. Now there's this little piece that goes in between the ball and the trophy, so I just made a cone shape, cut off the top, and then I stuck that through the dowel. I just used a popsicle stick to create all the lines, and then once that was ready, I placed it through the dowel that goes through the cake. The last thing that I had to cover in fondant was the cake board, so I just covered the whole board, even the sides of it. I smoothed it out with my fondant smoother and then trimmed off the excess. And now it was ready to be covered in gold. So to cover it in gold, I used my airbrush machine, but if you don't have an airbrush machine, you can also just brush it. And I mixed the gold highlighter dust with vanilla extract, but you can also use a clear alcohol for this. Once it was completely covered in gold, I left it in the fridge to firm up completely, and then I transferred it to a nicer board. Now for the very last touch, we have to add a black band to the bottom of the trophy. Forgot to mention it, but I did add a design to the base of the trophy, and for this I just used my Dresden tool to draw the NBA logo, and then I used some alphabet cutters to stamp a happy birthday along with the name. Guys, we did it. This is the final cake. I'm really proud right now. I'm having a proud baker moment. I can't believe it. We did it. Let me know what you guys think about it. I think it came out great, but let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave that all down below as well. And I will see you guys next time.